just Jersey, man. We're a different breed. Place. Who doesn't want to win in Jersey?
What's up, everybody? John Forster here. Breakdown from the barn. We're on episode 37. We got some big news coming in today. With me, as always, greatest mind in wrestling, Eric Winuck. We're happy to be back with you guys. A lot of stuff happening after the season. A lot of stuff happening for the summer. We're going to talk about it. What's up, Eric? How you making
What's
out?
going on, John? Yeah, and a lot. I mean, the last time we did a show, we obviously got the opportunity to talk to Mr. Nate Jackson. And we're going to get into some of the sort of the senior level wrestling in a little bit, what's going on with Final X. But yeah, lots happened. It's a different world now, John, where you think of college wrestling when the NCAA championships would come to an end. It'd be kind of a quiet period. You talk about obviously recruiting and so on and so forth, and how teams are rebuilding and what to expect kind of going to the freestyle season. But now we're going to talk about, I think we're going to get into Shane here. The concept of NIL has completely changed all aspects of just collegiate sports in general. But for wrestling, you know, for good or bad, it's getting us a lot to talk about in the off season, a lot more than we used to.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think, we'll get into the Shane Griffith thing right now, but it is, if anything, it makes it exciting because there is a lot that happened in the last month, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things to follow. Obviously Rutgers was really having their fingers crossed that Shane Griffith would do a Sebastian Rivera and come home for his last year. That didn't happen. He went to Michigan. Good luck to him. What are your thoughts there, Winuck, with the Shane Griffith decision? Down to 3 schools, Michigan, right, Iowa, Rutgers. Shane chooses Michigan. What are your thoughts about that specific situation, and then we'll talk about NIL in general after that?
Well, it's funny you talk about Iowa because we'll get into a second. We at least made a little bit of a splash the heavyweight slot, but we'll get into that in a second because I know we're going to talk about Shane right now. But it's funny you mentioned Iowa as one of the potential outcomes because they've really struggled this year with trying to bring wrestlers in. Obviously, they lost a couple of guys to Penn State, and there's a number of guys who were had them in their list. So it's some of the halves have also had some trouble through this whole transition period. But when you talk about Sugar Shane, obviously a national champion, Jersey roots. I think he's a guy who legitimately had a strong interest in coming home. It didn't work out for Rutgers, so we can get into that a little bit more. But really, there's a couple of things. One is Shane as a person. This is a guy, I mean, you talk about someone who's winning. He's got a degree from Stanford, okay? I think he was working on his master's over there, okay? He's going to immediately, the second he walks off a wrestling mat and puts the shoes up, and I don't know if he's going to want to continue after this season or not, but either way, he's going to have a brilliant career. He's probably going to make a good amount of money, be a successful person, great person, but landing in Michigan, that just... For him, it's continued to winning because he's walking in a room where he's got a lot of solid guys for him to work out with. He's got a coaching staff that is one of the best in the country, all Americans up and down the line. He's got a university, and this is somebody who actually really does care about his post-grad, opportunities. And he's going to get his master's over at Michigan and someone who's going to be in finance. So, I mean, there's so many things outside. And I know we're going to trend into the NIL in a second, but even taking that away, John, it's really hard to fault this young man for making the decision he did because there's just, for what he wants to do and where he's going in life, his trajectory, I hate to say it, it kind of aligns. I don't know your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. As much as I would have loved for him to come back to Rutgers, we would have gave him the hero's welcome coming back. I think with all you just said, making the move over there and Michigan has a lot going for him. I mean, they're with the moves that they made, they're contending to be a national championship team. He went to Stanford. Stanford, don't want to say second tier. They're a good program, but they're not a program that would ever be a big time program up there, even compared to Rutgers, right? Good academic, great academically, good program, but not, he's immediately jumping into a team that's going to contend for a national title. Last year, I think, Michigan had a heck of a month, right? I mean, they went.
This was about Cannon and a couple of other guys.
This was Penn State's championship. They're in the discussion right now. We'll get into that. So I think Shane Griffith. Good luck to you, Shane. Best of luck winning at life. Already a national champ, 3-time All-American. I think getting into that room. And with the workout partners that he's going to have and being on a national championship caliber team, that's just going to help him get to that next level and win a national title, which I know that's his goal.
Yeah, and then you talk about what's Michigan's goal out of this because, not that I want to, we're talking about Shane right now, but obviously, bringing in Chris Cannon, bringing the wrestler from Minnesota. Okay, they brought in three solid names. So they're obviously coming off last year where they picked up Nick Suriano, but Michigan's really making a push, and we joke around. They're really making the push, and we talk about going for a national title. They're not going to win a national title. Okay, I think we could just say that right here, right now. I don't care how much they pursue wrestlers. Penn State, that's theirs to lose, which is not going to happen. There's very few things I'm that confident about in life, but I'm pretty confident about that. But I'll tell you what, if I'm Iowa, and if I'm the Brands brothers, I'm thinking to myself, okay, we're always trying to compete with Penn State, but now we've got, we've talked about Oklahoma State in the past, but I think they've fallen back. Arizona State from time to time is throwing together a program. Ohio State, we know, and they continue to recruit well. All the top teams in the Big Ten. But what Michigan is doing right now, and they are really breathing down Iowa's neck. And Iowa, like I said, they went after a number of these wrestlers in the portal. And I hate to say it, they struck out on a good amount. So from my standpoint, John, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think this is Michigan probably looking to basically overtake Iowa and move into that second position.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll talk about Michigan. They got four kind of hammers in there, all Americans. They got DeAugustino, they got Chris Cannon down below. Then they got the big name that I think is flying under the radar a little bit with Michigan is Lucas Davidson, because Lucas Davidson was always that guy that wasn't talked about when you said what wrestlers are in the hunt for a national title, but he's pretty damn close to the Cassiopes, and everybody, that top tier heavyweight. He was pretty damn close. And now he's going to go to Michigan, where he's going to be working out with Mason Paris and that coaching staff. So I definitely think he was kind of right on the bubble to be that national contender, and now he's going into probably the perfect situation for him, where he has the best guy in the world to work out with, other than Gable Steveson, but he has Mason Paris. It's going to be his workout partner every day, and definitely somebody that could make that jump to be a national champ. But I do agree. I think Iowa. If I'm Iowa, I'm not very happy right now. They definitely struck out on a lot of these big names, and Michigan kind of overtook them. I agree with you. I think I wouldn't bet any money to say, hey, this is Penn State's national championship to lose, but they did at least put themselves as something that we would talk about on the show, right? I mean, I think that's what they did. They put themselves as a conversation piece. They got Cam Amin in there. They got a bunch of other guys that could contend for national titles, and they put their name as at least a discussion point for the national championship next year.
Yeah, and I think for a future show, we'll probably have to break down the lines because there's a few things got to change. You talk about Mean. He's obviously going to most likely either him or Griffith's going to bump up, but that's going to happen. Those two guys, I think, somebody's going to move up. That's obviously been discussed. If we do matchup to matchup, I would be curious because I don't think I've actually taken the time to sit down and say how we're going to match up now, pound for pound. So a dual meet might be a little bit more enticing than the actual national championship itself. Yeah. So that's definitely something to talk about. And you talk about Lucas Davidson, the fact that he knocked off, Schultz last year from Arizona State. I mean, this guy's got some big wins. So you're absolutely right. And you talk about the rich getting richer. Michigan brought in 3 loaded transfers. Their lineup has significantly improved from last year. Well, I shouldn't say that because obviously you got a 1-for-1 with the heavyweight Mason Paris. Obviously, it's almost like a trade-off. So from that respect, they really get better as much as reload. But yeah, listen, Michigan won this offseason. That's the best way I can put it. I think Penn State pulled in a good solid wrestler as well. Iowa fell back. But let's talk about Rutgers. They did pick up a nice pickup in the transfer portal. Why don't we go to that?
Yeah. I think when you look at what Rutgers did, obviously a lot of disappointment with Shane Griffith. But when you're talking about, obviously Michigan was a big winner. Penn State was a big winner. Rutgers did as good as anyone else, I would say, with this transfers. I don't think there's, when you talk about those two teams, there's not a lot of other teams that kind of made out in the portal. They, got a solid wrestler from Harvard. I know I'm going to struggle with his name all year. Yaroslav Slavikov, hope I'm saying that correctly, but he's gonna, make some noise. He was the 6th seed at Nationals. He, definitely, was right there, was round away from All-American this year. And I think with one more year, you know, Boone McDermott, crowd favorite. We loved him. I know he's in the portal now. Good luck to Boone. Hopefully he lands somewhere good, or maybe he'll end up coming back for another year at Rutgers. Who knows? But yeah, that definitely is a solid pickup at heavyweight. I do think that I do think that he's as good as anybody at that heavyweight, taking out the top 3 or 4, he's as good as anybody else. So I think he's going to be, I'm not saying a sure thing to All-American next year, but I think his chances are very high, just as high as just about anybody else. And that's a big pickup for us. What are your thoughts?
I can tell you the Harvard wrestler, when he made some nice connections over at the bank. So I think there's a couple of people who pulled him in. I think he got very comfortable with the Rutgers environment, with the program, the people in the room. So like you said, really good pickup. And I think we also want to point out the fact that, yes, he was number 6 in the country as in terms of his seeding when he came into the NCAAs last year, had a phenomenal season. I think he's one of those guys that just the way we've talked about this a million times. Okay. The way the brackets worked out for him, he kind of got the short end of the stick. He lost to some really tough wrestlers in the NCAAs. I've seen guys who have placed as high as 6 who had easier roads. So when you talk about next season, I think if he has a good solid season, I think if he can get the right place, I think he's got a better than a 50% chance of getting on that podium. It's not a guarantee. Like you said, you bring in a guy like Griffith, he's going to land in the top. You bring in Davidson, he's most likely going to be one of those top 8. Okay. I would even submit to you some of the other guys, a Cannon, 2-time All-American. So these guys were more sure things, if you can talk about a sure thing. But either way, like you said, we brought in a guy that we think is going to compete right away. Again, love Boone, did a lot, got bigger last year, had some nice wins for us. Got hurt last year, which I think really hurt him. He got hurt at the worst time last year. And I really think that had an effect on him, because I think he was just starting to come into his own. He was just starting to get kind of, his breathing going. But it's definitely a step up for us at heavyweight. So listen, I would have liked to have done something at 65. I would have liked to bring Cannon in, and we could talk about that in a second. But all in to be said, at least we got a nice, good wrestler we know is going to compete for an All-American position next year.
Yeah, and that's good. Another name too came on. Honestly, signed the day he pinned Alec Pantelio in the U.S. Open. Jacob
could not have timed that any better from the day he
it's a good timing on when he signed. So someone in that middle that Rutgers could use some more guys in that middle of the lineup. Tough wrestler, like that he's competing in the off season, competing at that senior level. You could say it's a fluke, but he got it done. He pinned the number 1 seed at the U.S. Open. That's something that's, pretty big to go out there and be able to do that. So I'm excited to see Jacob Butler, what he could bring to the table, coming into New Jersey. I think that was a good pickup as well for the Knights.
Yeah, he's got
a weight class that, they need some more depth in that middle of the lineup.
He's got a unique style. One can argue that maybe the senior circuit is his freestyle acumen may be a little bit more tailored for that. But he definitely has a good funky style. I'm actually kind of excited to see what he's going to do here. We talked about it being in the room, and Oklahoma's had some trouble over the last couple of years. And obviously, with the coaching change that they made, it was the right move for Butler to move on and try to give that one last shot at doing something at the Nationals this year. I think he was 14-8 last year. He was a national qualifier. So you're talking about a wrestler who's got the capability. I do think he has some upside. He could be that guy that surprises you. Obviously, we brought in a kid from Clarion a couple of years ago that we weren't so sure. Was this really an upgrade? Weren't there other weights that were of some need? And next thing you know, lo and behold, he's on the show. We're talking about him being an All-American. So to me, I think it's something to be excited about. We obviously got stronger in the middle weights by bringing him in. I think it just makes the room better. So regardless of how he performs, I think it's a positive. I'm glad we brought him in.
Yeah, sounds good. And then the big news, not for next year, the year after, I think they did get this blue chip recruit, Connor Harner. He's the type they need. They need to get some more of him, and that's the type of blue chip recruit that Rutgers needs. He's very high on the big board. I think he's ranked 20th on the big board. That's what Rutgers needs to start pulling in. It's good they got him signed to get to that next level. Rutgers is 16th through 23 ranked team, and that's what they're going to be. We know that's what they're going to be, and in order to make that jump to get into the top 10 to compete with the Arizona States, the NC States, these are the types of recruits that Rutgers needs to bring in, the surefire blue chip recruits, I think.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about the class coming in, you didn't necessarily have that big name, but obviously big names don't always make a difference. You think of some of the guys who have All-American for Rutgers, where it's Theobald, obviously, Del Vecchio. We've had guys that have come in, maybe not be top 20, top 50, top 100 flow wrestlers who have developed, who have been successful. So I'm not going to put down any class that comes in, but you're absolutely right. We needed that big name to start to get the flow back going on. It's been a while since we've had that kind of recruit. Obviously, we brought in Poznansky a couple of years ago. But for me, it's more than that. It's showing that we're in the game, that we're still pounding the pavement. We are going to bring in quality wrestlers. And second of all, it's a Pennsylvania wrestler. And obviously, Jersey wrestling, we can speak all day long about how great Jersey is, but we always haven't had the best luck bringing in the Barton kids, the Blair kids, okay? The cream of the crop of Jersey. And we're still working on that. So I like the fact that Goodell, along with Buxton, who's very involved with the recruiting process now, are going outside of that Jersey area and starting to pick guys from Pennsylvania, start going in the Midwest. We're starting to recruit and bring in transfers from other part of the country. So even though we want to keep the Jersey guys home, John, I think also the fact that we're making inroads with some of these other states that are obviously have some high profile wrestling. We've dabbed in Ohio before. So for me, that standpoint, it's not just bringing a big name, it's also branching out from Jersey and basically saying, listen, if we'll take anybody, okay? Yeah. If you don't want to wrestle for Rutgers, fine. We'll go find somebody else and we'll go outside the state to do it. So from that standpoint, I think it's a positive, and we'll see if he wins another title this year and goes undefeated.
Yeah, 100%. So so that's going to be a fun one. And, the big thing, we touched on it earlier, the game right now is, really this NIL deals. This is what kids are looking for. They're going in the portal. This is something that, our show's trying to do. We had a little bit of success last year. We got one deal with the t-shirt sales. That was fun, and then, getting Andy Clark a deal that was cool to do. We had the tailgate that didn't happen. I think that was something pretty big. I'll tell you, we were going to raise like $5,000 on that was going to go directly to NIL deals. We had a lot of people buying tickets. We had sponsors. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep doing that. I think for Final X, we're going to do a little pool. And the winner of the pool gets to pick our next NIL deal. So we might do the tailgate. Honestly, that was a lot of time on me, a lot of time on you, a lot of time on a lot of people. I think we're going to do some smaller things this year, try to start getting that movement going, getting some NIL deals. So be on the lookout. Once we get the lineup set, which is going to be in 2 weeks, we'll do a little pool, $25 to get in. And if you pick the winners, if you win the pool, ultimately you're going to get half of the pot. And then the other half of the pot, we're going to use to fund an NIL deal. So we're going to do that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see what we do with that. We'll throw some other stuff in. We'll get them some gear and some, extra money, but we'll get that going. I think that'll be a lot of fun for people, and we'll try to just start building. Kids need to see these NIL deals getting out there, and if your school is a school where they see that they could go to and get these deals, they're going to pick their schools. If I wasn't a blue chip recruit, but if I was, I'd be looking at that, right? So I think it's don't hate the player, hate the game there. I think that's the game that we got out there right now, and we're going to do our best. And and listen, if you enter the pool and you're not a Rutgers fan, we got a lot of people that watch the show that aren't Rutgers fans. We'll do it for another school as well. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We're going to get that pool going. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And we got 2 suites. I'm pumped, Eric, dude. We got 20 people in both of these suites just in the last day. So we got 2 suites at the Prue Center. So that's going to be a great day for us. We're going to have a lot of fun there.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested in getting involved with any of that, obviously John will put the links out there. Once we get the pool going, it'll be out there. We'll get that out there on social media. We're really pumping. We had a lot of great fun when we did the NCAA pool this year. John, I thought that was really successful. A lot of interest in that. So to me, it also makes it fun for us, okay? Because, you know, we talk about fantasy stuff with NCAA basketball and all these other pools. The fact that we're getting wrestling involved with this, it just adds a little bit of excitement. You're right. Even if you're not a Rutgers fan, you can jump in and pick a wrestler. Try to pick the Final X guys. It gets you involved. It gets you excited to watch. And that's what we're trying to do. I know the phrase gets thrown around too much, grow the sport, but that's really what we're doing. And we're growing the sport from within. We're trying to find, before you can start getting non-wrestlers excited, you got to get people who are lukewarm towards, you know, the senior level circuits, towards freestyle to Final X. It gives them a reason to get excited. So yeah, all good stuff. And if I may, John, I'm gonna real quick just take a time to talk about NIL. And maybe we can, I think there's another show I'd like to speak in more detail about NIL, what it means, because we don't have the time right now. I'm wearing this for a reason. So what number is this, John?
23.
And who's 23?
Is it Brian Leonard?
Brian Leonard, yeah. And this jersey's 15 years old, okay? I'm wearing this for a reason. When people think of what NIL is, name, image, and likeness, and why it is what it is today, okay? For how many years you had a player like Brian Leonard, okay? You see the Nike, you see the Rutgers, okay? Everybody knew when these jerseys came out why they picked 23. That wasn't by accident. Do you know how much Brian Leonard gets for this jersey? Zero, okay? And if you go to a Rutgers game, even this year, when you go down and watch Shiano out there coaching, how many people are going to have this 23 jersey?
A lot.
Okay, yeah. You're going to see a 27 jersey. You're going to see a lot of 1 jerseys. Who's one? Isaiah Pacheco going out there making the coin now in Kansas City. Now, listen, there's a lot of debate in the past. Should these guys get paid? Okay, is it the right thing to do? I'm more of I lean on the side that they're amateur athletes. I don't love the idea of players getting a ton of money. I think it really segments the locker rooms. I think you talk about the haves or have-nots. A lot of these guys are going to make it big. But then you think to yourself, okay, name, image, and likeness. You take a kid who goes out there, gets maybe his jersey, and we knew Brian Leonard didn't get in trouble for anything. Let's just say, for argument's sake, he goes out there and somebody buys him lunch, and he gets caught for buying lunch. In the past, he could get suspended, okay? The program could be put on sanctions. You could lose scholarships, all for something as silly as a lunch. And how much has this shirt generated? Yet that wrestler, okay, or that football player, I should say, basically can't even get a free lunch or go out and take his girlfriend to dinner on somebody's hat. So the concept of name, image, and likeness kind of was overdue to happen, because these are the kinds of things that I think, and you talk about, you know, we've seen these, John, the Seabass shirts, okay? The fact that when Sebastian Rivera came over, he was finally able to kind of, you know, I hate to say the term profit, but really take advantage of the fact that people were buying that because of Sebastian Rivera. People were getting this jersey because of Brian Leonard. And I think what's starting to happen, I think that's the way we wanted to go, John. I'm curious your thoughts, because we talk about Michigan and the fact that obviously they have a very large corporate entity out there that is involved with wrestling. We know who they are. I don't want to say the name. One could argue that a lot of the wrestlers they brought in were simply for the fact that they were paid, okay? Yeah. There's not necessarily their name being used. They're not out there like, you know, our guy Stu, who's got a tent, who's promoting the athlete. So what are your thoughts? Do you think it's gone too far, John? And do you think we're getting away from what the whole purpose of NIL was? Because the purpose of NIL is for a guy like Brian Leonard, if you're going to use his name, use his number, he should have the right to have the opportunity to get a little bit of compensation for that.
I do. And I think that I'm with you on a lot of what you said there. I think these athletes, there's not a lot of money in it for wrestling. I mean, even you take a Shane Griffith. I mean, is he gonna he's gonna make a lot of money in finance, right? But maybe he does. Maybe he's probably giving up money. If he wants to go and wrestle, he's giving up a lot of money to go wrestle on the senior circuit, you know, and until he really wins an Olympic gold, that doesn't, and you know, the chances of that happening just for any wrestler, no matter how many times you're a national champ, is very slim. So you're giving up a lot of money to you know, pursue your dream. So you're right. I think that, you know, wearing that jersey and saying, hey, Brian Leonard should get a piece of that money that is selling all your jerseys. Rutgers is making money selling those jerseys. They're making money on tickets. They're making money on this, that, the other thing. You should be able to go out and make money on your name, image, and likeness. And I think that that's what the rule was meant to be. If Stu Cohn wants to say, hey, someone has a big Instagram following, they could help out Miller's Rental. We could give you money right down from the barn. We want to help these athletes, but it also helps our show. I mean, I lose a lot of money on this show right now, right? But it's like, that's the point of it, though. We want to promote our show. We want to team up with an athlete, give them some money, and then help them promote the show. That's what this NIL is about. I think the challenge on what it became is somebody from Michigan going out and saying, hey, and I don't know what the backroom deals are or how much dollars they're talking about.
We're about serious money, John.
Coach goes and goes to an
about
athlete
serious
and
money.
says, come here, we're going to give you $50,000. We got that money. When the coaches are involved or people from the administration is involved, I think that's the area that they just need to get out of it. If there's companies that are, working with the teams and everything else. And I think that's what it was meant to be and what it should be for. Any sort of organization or company wants someone to promote their product and just could show that they're doing something that helps their product. I think that's that's the big thing here. And that's where we need to get back to. I think having the coaches in definitely just changes the sport, because you end up with these haves and the have-nots, right? The guys that are the multiple-time All-Americans, they're going to get this money. And then you got a lot of kids that are kind of the middle of the road, nationally ranked wrestler. They're like, what's going on here, right? So I think taking the coaching piece out of it and allowing these athletes to go out and promote themselves, that's kind of the key here.
I just don't want to become perverted to the point where it becomes nothing but a free agency and guys are going to the portal and you bring up a wrestler, obviously Northwestern, it is what it is. They're almost like an Ivy League institution where after 4 years guys move on. We know guys at Princeton, UPenn, they're not going to stay there 6 years. They develop these wrestlers, they get what they want out of them. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the grad transfer moving on. But what you don't want to see is a wrestler come in, be successful for a year or two. You develop them. They become an All-American out of nowhere. And then Iowa says, bam, we'll offer you $200,000. Cliff Keen comes and says, we're going to put together a deal with Michigan to bring you to Michigan. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what's going to happen is it's not just signing the big name, John. It's you go out there, you find the dime in the rough. You basically, you bring them in, you develop them. They become a positive influence in your room. They become a leader and you say, we found this guy, and then they're gone. Okay. Exactly. And you don't want to fault the wrestler. You don't want to fault the athlete, because it's, I can make the argument that money isn't as big as you think it is. Your future and where you're going. That's why I said I don't fault Griffith, because he's got a great head and shoulders, regardless of whatever happened there with the NIL situation. He landed in a great situation for him. I'm not going to fault him. But there might be a wrestler, a football player, an athlete who goes to a school that's really not the best opportunity for them long term, and they do it to chase a few bucks, and they look back and say, God, I really wish I stayed at this program. I went there. It would have been better for me long term. So like I said, we're kind of going off a little bit of a tangent here. I wanted to mention that because I'd like for us to talk about this again at some time and really delve into this, because I don't like where it's going. And if we're going to do this, someone needs to get a hold of this thing. Because what we don't want it to be is just strictly free agency. We need to go back for the reason why this was, so that some kid doesn't necessarily lose his career because he got a free lunch, yet a video game company can put your number, your quote unquote image, and make a ton of money out of that. That's what we need to start thinking about, but I just don't know how we do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So real quick, we're running out of time a little bit here. We got two more things to cover. Let's talk about Final X. You talk about raising excitement and raising the bar for the sport. I'm excited. This is wrestling getting big time. I'm going to tell you about 3 days ago, my man Amir Khan reached out to me. He said, let's get a suite at the Prudential Center. All of a sudden, we got 40 people in 2 suites. And, that's going to be a lot of fun. That's where you see wrestling going from a sport wrestling in small gyms to this big arena. And we got, 40 people to go into this suite, paying some ducats for it, right? These aren't $20 tickets. We need to shell out a couple hundred each to get this suite, but it's good to see, wrestling getting promoted like that. I'm very excited. I mean, those matchups are going to be killer. And I think it's really cool to see the Prudential Center. Hopefully that place gets packed. I think it will be. And I think a big thing with that too is, the Prudential Center, they want to host NCAA. So the more people that pack the Prudential Center, hey, this is Jersey wrestling coming to the Prudential Center. This could get them over the top to get the NCAA. So give us your thoughts on the event first, and then we'll talk about a couple matches. I think that, let's just pick one or two matches to talk about that you're excited for. We're going to do another big show on this. We got Dylan Wangagil coming on, so we're going to do another show to cover top to bottom Final X. But give us your thoughts on Final X at the Crucible.
Real quick, right off the bat, Final X was at Rutgers University, the RAC. It was a huge success. I was there, Matt's side. I mean, pretty much a sellout crowd. Last year, we went to the Hulu Theater in Madison Square Garden. What a phenomenal time we had. And again, that place was packed to the rim. Okay. Now we're coming to the Prudential Center. We've noticed that this event has been held in other parts of the country, places that you would think are bigger areas for wrestling, and they could barely draw a crowd. So to me, yes, we're growing wrestling. Wrestling's getting exciting, but it's also saying to me, John, how big wrestling is becoming in our, I hate to say the tri-state area, really that New Jersey, North Jersey area. The fact that we can host these events, and I think that USA Wrestling is confident to basically put these events here. So yeah, I'm very excited about the Prudential Center. We've had a lot of success in this area. So to me, get out there, pack that arena. We need to do this, not just for wrestling, but to show, you're right, that New Jersey, North Jersey, that this New York area can support these things. And the last time we had the Big Ten Championship here at Rutgers, we've had the NCAAs at Madison Square Garden. I was there. That was a great time. We've had them at Penn State. Let's bring it to Jersey. Let's bring it to the Prudential Center. And this is our first step for getting that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And what matchup are you most excited for? When
I'll just jump right down to 97.
Matchups on another show, but what one really gets you excited?
97. I jumped ahead there because to me, this is a no-brainer. Snyder and Jaden Cox. These two go back to high school. And I really like what Jaden Cox did. He almost fell off a little bit, John, because there was a time we were talking about him pound for pound, and we were talking about David Taylor, Kyle Dake, obviously Jordan Burroughs. But there was a moment we were talking that maybe he was pound for pound the best USA wrestler in the world, okay? And obviously he's hit a couple of hiccups. Lost some bad matches, I think, over the last couple of years. Had some of the weight issues, obviously. But what I like about what Jaden's done, he's refocused. This is a guy who could have walked in at 92 kilograms, okay? And it's no disrespect to Machiavelli or anyone who's going to win the world team the world team trials. But he would have won 92, I think, easily. He would have gone on and competed for a gold medal. He's thinking Olympics right now, okay? In order to do that, he need to either go down to 86 and go after Taylor or Brooks, or bump up to 97 to go once again against Snyder. He's gotten too big for 86. So I like the fact that, John, not only is this another matchup, we saw Snyder and Cox wrestle just a year ago on that special where Snyder almost looked like he pulled away from him. I think Jaden's refocused. Obviously going against Nate Jackson, he's had some great matches there, but the fact that he's so refocused, he wants to win this spot, not just to win a world team medal. I think he's thinking, knock off Snyder, get a world championship. I can skip the Final X next year, get back in the Olympics.
Yeah, 100%. That's going to be a banger. And I do. I think Jaden beat him earlier. This is a good rematch. And I think, Kyle Snyder beat Jaden earlier. This is a good rematch. And Jaden Cox, we've seen him make some jumps, right? We've seen him go from losing a questionable match to being a world champ. So I think that one, very excited for. That's definitely the main event. You look up and down. I mean, I'm excited to see Vito Rujal. He seems like he's making some jumps. I'm really excited to see, honestly, when I'm looking at it, and something I might not have said a couple months ago, I'm excited to see Burroughs versus Chance Marstella.
Absolutely.
Chance Marstella, Jordan Burroughs, obviously the king, and, I think he takes it, but I think Chance is going to, come pretty heavy for him. This is a guy that coming out of high school, we expected him to be competing to be a 4-time national champ, and had a heck of a career, had some issues. He'll admit it. He made some bad decisions and still rebounded to be a couple-time All-American. But he seems to be really on the upside right now, really seems to be doing things right, and beat Alex Derringer. I really think that he's going to make a push, and he's going to challenge Jordan to get on that team. And that one I'm very excited about. And a lot of these matches just really got me fired up. We got the big man Stevenson back at heavyweight. He seems to be dominant. Excited to see him back. I'm just pumped for Final X, Eric. Top.
Yeah. So my last thing I'll say about Chance, you touched on it already. This isn't an upset him to be in this. It's not. I mean, we talk about Derringer Ringer. This is a 3-time national champion who has consistently been rated top 5 in the world. The poor guy just runs into these hammers and he can't seem to make the team, which is frustrating. That USA Wrestling's so deep that a guy like Derringer is not going to have the opportunity. Because in my opinion, today, even though he's not going to make the Final X, he can walk into that tournament tomorrow and be a world medalist. I think he's that good. Marsteller obviously is still struggling with things to this day. You talk to him, I'm sure he'll say the same thing. He's going to struggle for the rest of his life with some of the things he's dealing with, but I think he's finally in a good space. You're absolutely right. This man was built to wrestle. He got forgotten about. He ran into trouble, made the nice comeback, took 3rd in the country. I think he's just starting to tap into his potential. So when you look at these names, the Kyle Dix, Jason Dolphs, Yanni, Vito, Gilman, obviously Taylor Brooks, we're not going to get into him now, Gabe Stevenson. Chance Marsteller is right there with these guys in terms of pedigree and talent. He's just finally starting to reach his potential. So I agree with you. I think it's a great matchup. Jordan's still the king. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's something to be excited about. And the last thing I'll say is, to me, the best wrestler, the guy who's wrestling the best out of all these people, and we'll talk about Gable Stevenson in the next show, Vito Arugio. Okay. He's the best wrestler in the world right now. Okay. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he's wrestling such a high level. Obviously you're going to have a world team championship's going to challenge for that spot. So we don't know who he's going to have in Final X, but to me, going into this tournament, going into the world championships, there's nobody wrestling better than Vito right now.
Yeah. 100%. All right, let's switch gears slightly, right? Let's talk about North Hunterdon, coaching search going on right there. Let's First, Eric, tell us a little bit about the North Hunterdon program. They had a heck of a program this year. They're losing some people, but they got a youth program that is top notch. So why don't you talk about that program? And we know Brett McGinnis just found out he's interviewing for that spot. Former Rutgers wrestler, D1 pedigree. I think he might be able to. You're talking dynasty there, maybe if he gets in there. What's your thoughts? We're not.
Yeah, well, this is a program, North Hunterdon, that has, competed for state championships. When you talk about the public parochial schools, that's a program that does it right from bottom up. You talk about the youth program. Obviously, we've got Joe Wysocki as well, who's very involved with that youth wrestling program, who also spent time at Rutgers. His brother, Tom, obviously was a teammate of yours. So there's a lot of solid support out in that area for wrestling. If you go to the youth state championships, last couple of years with my son wrestling, you go over there, they'll have a suite of 30 people in that room. Okay. And that's the youth wrestling. Okay. They almost operate as if they're a club. Okay. So to me, when you talk about that youth program that they're building, if they can keep that core together, I think they're going to have a lot of success over the next several years. But you're right. Listen, it's a program that when you think of public schools, who they go against, they're in a very tough area. You've got the Jeffersons, you got the Voorhees. There's a lot of good wrestling out there. So to me, this is an opportunity for, whether it's Brent, someone to come in and to keep that going. But you're right. You lose a guy like, Logan Wadle. You lose some solid wrestlers who, for them, were cornerstones of that lineup for the last 4 years. So it's not going to be easy this year, John. I think there still needs to be some rebuilding. I think they're going to have to, obviously keep some of these guys, develop some of these guys. It's very hard in that area. There's a lot of solid wrestling in that northwest part of New Jersey. But yeah, you're right. The youth program's top notch. One of the better ones I've seen right now in the state. They do it the right way. They're very involved. So yeah, the fact that Brent's one of our guys, I'm really excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, and talk about Somerville pedigree, right? We got Hot Rod, Rodney Van Ness out of Immaculata. That's going to be key for that program. We know he's been on the club scene developing a lot of wrestlers. So what are your thoughts about Rodney to Immaculata? We'll close it out with that one.
He's going to kill it, John. It's a really nice spot for him. The difference at Immaculata, obviously being a parochial school, he's going to have an opportunity to build a roster, but most importantly, he's going to go against some top-notch wrestling. So to me, it's going to take, he's still got to kind of build that program, bring wrestlers in, develop him. So it's not going to be overnight per se, but I think in 2 or 3 years, as long as Rodney's still there and he's doing what he does, I think that's going to be, you're going to be talking about a Immaculata maybe 5-6 years from now as one of the great landing spots for a young wrestler to be at. Obviously, there's a lot of top parochials. You got St. Peter's, you got Del Barton, not a parochial, but when you talk about Blair, when you talk about private schools, wrestling is so tough in New Jersey to build a top-notch program. The competition is so fierce, but I think you're right. I think Hot Rod's he's gonna kill it. The man lives, breathes, eats wrestling. Obviously, Shane going out and doing what he's doing in Penn State, what he's done with Rhino. Now he's moving on to a new part of his life. I'm very happy for him. I think this is a great career move for him, and I wish him all the best, but I think he's gonna kill it.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys. Great having you. We'll be back soon. Next episode will probably be a Final X preview with Dylan Wang and Gil, VP of special events at the Crew Center. I think we're trying to get him on. We should be able to lock that up. We had him on before. So it should be a great episode. Keep following the show. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook, Spotify. Make sure you guys follow us. We'll be coming out with that Final X pool coming out. Try to enter that. That's good for the athletes around New Jersey. Good to get an NIL deal going off of that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And hey, Roll Junkie, Barn 15, they just came out with a wrestling line. So check them out. Get the Roll Junkie wrestling shirts. I got one. Don't get much better in terms of comfort and fit. Go Barn 15. And we'll talk to you guys later, man.